What's good, everybody? I'm Blitz5, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a beginner's guide to PUBG on console and going over the top 10 most important tips that I can give you guys to being successful in this game. I personally play PUBG on the Xbox One, and now with the release of PUBG on PS4, we are all part of the PUBG console community, which is great for PUBG and also us console gamers out there. And since this news that it's coming out on PS4, I've been receiving a lot of questions from PlayStation players about how to get ready for the game. Could you make a tips and tricks video? So that's what I'm doing today with this video here. So I'm going to be getting into everything you need to know how to play the game, strategy, controls, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm actually going to make a couple different videos here because some of these topics can get a little bit long and I wanted to expand on them. So this video is going to be an overall guide, and then I'll be posting some follow-up videos for anybody that wants to go in depth on these topics. And before we get into the guide, I kind of want to put out a disclosure here, or an FYI, and that is that PUBG is a really great game. This game is truly amazing. There's really not many games like it, even in the Battle Royale space. But what makes it so great also makes it extremely frustrating. They kind of go hand in hand. And PUBG has been plagued with a lot of issues across the PC and Xbox platforms. So if you guys go online, there's going to be a lot of criticism and maybe even some hate towards PUBG. But at its core, it's a great game. So don't let that stuff distract you or turn you away from playing this game. It really is a lot of fun. So let me quickly elaborate on why PUBG can be so frustrating at times. And one of the first things you guys are going to notice, especially as console players, is that there's no auto aim in this game. So when you first start playing, it's very difficult to shoot at people. The recoil is very harsh. It's very realistic to what it would be like in real life. And the console isn't giving you any help. So at first, you might get frustrated. You might think you're bad. You might think the game is bad. But once you get used to that and start compensating for that and your skill increases, you really feel rewarded when you get a kill in the game because you know that you did it completely by yourself. There was no auto aim or assist. It was completely your skill. So stuff like that kind of translates into many different areas in PUBG. And also they did kind of have trouble porting this from PC to console. So we dealt with a lot of issues on the Xbox One platform. For the most part, most of these things have been resolved and the game runs a lot better. We'll see how it runs on PlayStation, but you have to bear in mind that this is their first game on console and they're still working out a lot of kinks. Even though they're in the 1.0 full launch version of the game, there are still some issues that maybe some other games don't deal with from larger developers like Call of Duty and Battlefield. All right, and now that I've gotten that out of the way, we're on to my first tip. So this is to learn the controls and be prepared for no auto aim, as I was just talking about before. So luckily enough, for anybody that gets the game now on any platform, PUBG now has a training mode. So a lot of old players like myself didn't have the opportunity to go into the training mode and practice. I would have to land in the middle of nowhere on a map and try to figure out the game and hope that no one was around me, because if you mess up, it's just a really slow process of going back to the main menu, dropping back in just to get killed again. So being able to practice in training mode, you have like 20 or 30 minutes just to hang out there in the game. And I would really recommend to try everything out that you can. So use the AR, use the submachine guns, use shotguns, pistols, try all the different scopes, even drive the cars and the motorcycles just so you can get used to it and you don't crash and die immediately and just ruin your whole experience off the start. This is really a great place to start. And then on top of this, you can also kind of test out some of your controller sensitivities here. You can aim down sights, do the over the shoulder aiming, try to shoot at people far away, the moving targets. And really what I would recommend is I always like to play a game with the default controller settings first. Obviously, this is just my opinion. This is subjective. You might know how you kind of play better with faster sensitivity, but I really feel like you should start with the default sensitivity and then start to make your way up to either increasing your sensitivity, lowering your sensitivity, changing it from controller type A to controller type B. And this in itself could really be its own video. So I'm going to create a video on how to set up your controller settings. And I already have a video made about choosing between type A and type B controls, which I'll link down in the description box below. Tip number 2 is to be patient, and this might be the most important tip I'm going to tell you guys today. And I mean this in 2 different ways. So the first way is be patient when learning the game. It takes a while to get used to the controls, no auto aim as I was mentioning before, and this can be really frustrating. So don't give up. You guys need to play at least for a couple months to get used to the game, in my opinion. From my personal experience, I've been playing shooters and FPS games since I was a child, and this game took me a couple months to actually get proficient at. So make sure you stick with it. Try to find some other friends to play with. Sometimes playing in a squad can be less frustrating than playing solos because people are hiding. And just in general, the battle royale genre can be a little bit frustrating at times because you might get killed out of nowhere, people are camping, all of those things. So just make sure you remain patient in all those situations. And the second way is to actually be patient when you're playing this game. Patience is a virtue in real life, and it also is in PUBG. There's so many scenarios where after I won a game or after I killed somebody and I look back and I realize that waiting was the right move. And whether this is waiting for somebody to stop before you shoot them, waiting for an enemy to get closer, sometimes depending on your skill level or your weapon setup, you don't want to shoot at somebody that's at mid-range. You want to wait until they get extremely close, especially with the lack of auto-aim and the heavy recoil some of these guns have. You want to give yourself the best chance to be victorious in this game, and whether that's waiting for the circle to move before you move because the circle could go in a different direction or the opposite side of the map. There's so many variables that can happen into this game, and this all leads into kind of your game awareness, shoot to kill strategy, all of those things, and some of the tips that I'm going to be bringing up next. And as a perfect transition, shoot to kill is my third tip. So this is really interesting. Immediately upon firing somebody and missing them, say you wound them, you hit them in the leg or the arm, or say you just completely miss. There's so many things that immediately happen in this moment. Almost makes me laugh because you could really break this down and analyze it. So immediately upon firing, the enemy is notified that he is being shot at. So they have a couple different options here. If they're close to you, they can turn around and kill you, especially if they have a really strong weapon or they're good at aiming. If they're at a medium to farther range, they're probably going to start zigzagging, and then it becomes a lot more difficult to finish them off. And then also they can get to cover in this scenario. They could revive themselves, take an energy drink. They could even have more health than you at this point if they have some time to revive. Also, if they're in the third-person camera mode, which is what a lot of people play with on PUBG console, they can use that angled camera to look around the map and see where you are. And then in a really bad scenario, they might even have a better scope than you or a better gun, and then they can take you out. And then this becomes a really failed situation because you might have been able to kill them, and then they turn around and ended the game, and you probably would have been better off not shooting to begin with. So make sure if you're going to take the shot that you're shooting to kill. A lot of times it's better to wait until the enemy stops moving, especially if you're sniping. Make sure you're confident in your ability right there, because you might just end up ruining the game for yourself or your squad. And that takes us right into tip number 4, and that's know when to fight and know when to run. And the TLDR here is that there's no shame at running away in PUBG, especially if you stay alive, because it's going to give you a better chance at earning that winner chicken dinner. So there's 2 scenarios here that I think you're going to run into a lot when playing PUBG, and I'll try to give them to you guys here so you can hopefully make a better decision when you're playing the game. It's tough in the live scenario, but here we go. So one scenario is you might be following a team in the game and it seems like they don't know that you're behind them. Say they're up at a hill and you make the decision that you want to go and sneak attack them and kill them, but to get to the hill, you have to enter into an open field with no rocks. Even if they're not looking at you, you might enter into that field. They might be tricking you. They're going to turn around out of those rocks and shoot you in the open field, and your game is over. So in that scenario, it really wasn't worth the extra kills. Always identify if there's cover, if there's a safe area, if you think you can make it over there, what your weapons are. Don't assume that all the players are bad and don't have any good weapons. Sometimes I do that and I usually end up dying. Then the second scenario, which I noticed with a lot of new players and people who are bad, and it actually kind of frustrates me, is when you're in the blue zone. And this is going to happen when you're playing in Erangel and Miramar because the maps are a lot bigger and the blue zone moves a lot faster, and you're going to be running to the map a lot more, especially if you don't have a vehicle. And there's often times when you see other people running in the blue zone. Obviously, if they're really close to you, you're going to want to shoot them and take them out because they're a very big risk. But if they're off in the distance, there's really no point at shooting them. It's kind of like a mutual agreement that you guys both need to get into the zone. So for example, there's been many times when I see someone shooting at me so far away in the blue zone, I'm like, why is this guy shooting me and not running? And then say on the off chance he hits me with a headshot and I die, I'll go to spectate his camera and he's so far away, he just dies in the blue zone and both of our games are over. So really, he got an extra kill, which is great for him, but he had no chance of surviving and getting the winner chicken dinner. And to me, that's the whole point of the game. So sometimes it's better to keep it moving, keep it on the run, stay alive, because that's the only way you can win the game. And on to tip number 5, which is awareness. There's a lot of things to pay attention to PUBG, and in my opinion, you're really only going to get used to this over time and by playing the game. Some of the first things you're going to have to pay attention to is where people are landing on in the map, especially if they're landing in the same town as you. Then you're going to have to pay attention to where the circle is moving. And for example, I have one basic scenario for you guys that can kind of give you insight to what you can use in the future when you become more advanced in the game. Say the circle moves north of Pachinki, which is one of the major cities in Erangel. you can kind of imagine or predict that one squad is going to survive in Pochinki and they're going to be moving north to that circle. So with that information, you can kind of predict the routes that people are going to be taking and use that to your advantage to where people are going to be in the circle, or if you want to get some kills and some additional loot. And as you become more advanced with the game, some of these scenarios become more advanced and you can be very good at predicting where enemies are and kind of positioning yourself well in the circle. And on top of that, awareness can be really important in a gun battle, especially if you're in squads. You have to pay attention to what your team is doing. You have to pay attention to what the enemies are doing, calling out their positions, cycling through your inventory. Maybe you want to switch to a grenade. You want to make sure you use the right grenade and not do what I do and throw a stun accidentally and stun yourself or your squad. You want to put down a smoke grenade, and you might want to track if there's another enemy coming in and rotating positions. So many things are going on that it can be really hectic and really easy to make a mistake. So over time, you'll get used to this. You'll become more comfortable with the controls and be more successful in those situations. All right, so for those first 5 tips, I thought they were really important, so I wanted to elaborate on them a little bit more and give you guys in-game scenarios so you can start off on the right foot when playing PUBG for the first time. And the next 5 are going to be a little bit more rapid fire, but nonetheless still important. So number 6 is using headphones. You might be able to get away with using your TV audio if there's no other noise in your room or in your house, and you might be even better if you have surround sound, but realistically, you're going to want to use headphones. Sound is so important in this game that you could probably move this up to tip number 1, and that you shouldn't really be playing PUBG without headphones, because that's the only way you're going to hear people, hear where shots are coming from. There's really no indications or notifiers in the game, so without your headphones on, you're going to be at a huge and severe disadvantage. Tip number 7 is where to drop. When you first get the game and start playing PUBG, I'm really going to recommend that you drop at unnamed locations randomly scattered throughout the map. There's so many areas to get loot and play the game, learn the controls, all of those things. That's the best way to get started. Once you figure out the basics, I really recommend hot dropping over and over again so you can get used to the gunplay in this game. There's no point in playing the game outside the map forever just to make it to the end and you don't even know how to use your weapon, and you're just going to end up spending 30 minutes to lose the last gunfight. So hot dropping is essential to getting better in this game. And if you're not familiar with the term hot dropping, this is when you land in a location of the map where a lot of other players are landing. This is considered to be a very risky move, and while it may not be strategic, it is a lot of fun and action-packed way to start off your game. Then on to tip number 8, which is playing the large maps versus Sanhok. And just a quick little PUBG map history for you all. The first map in the game is called Erangel. Then PUBG came out with the second desert map named Miramar. And then they added the smallest jungle map in the game, and this is called Sanhok. And this is probably what you've seen a lot of people, including myself, play most of the time. This map plays so much differently than the original 2 maps that they've actually created a different playlist in the game. So the original 2 maps are under the Battle Royale playlist, and Sanhok is under the Mini Royale playlist. My personal opinion would be to go into Battle Royale and play a couple matches on Erangel and Miramar first. These are a lot more difficult. There's a lot less loot on these maps. There's less cover. So your strategy and survivability really comes into play here. And I honestly think this is kind of what PUBG and Bluehole had in mind when they created this game. Then with Sanhok, this map is so much smaller and action-packed. There's so much loot everywhere. It's almost like easy mode compared to the other 2 maps. And unfortunately, once you start playing Sanhok, it's hard to go back to the other 2 maps. But those other 2 maps really teach you how to play the game the right way, and then you can kind of apply it in Sanhok, which is the more arcadey version. I think that's what a lot of people on console are kind of used to playing. Ever since the release of Sanhok, my stats, my KD, my weapon skills, everything has increased because I'm getting into way more battles and playing a lot more matches. And tip number 9 is gear is more important than you may think. So this is a pretty straightforward tip, so I'm going to keep this one really short. All I know is that my personal experiences when I first started playing the game, I didn't really care too much if I had a level 1 vest versus a level 2 vest. And the same thing goes for the helmet and some of the other gear you get in the game. But honestly, as you play more and you play better players, this becomes a huge factor into whether or not you're going to win a gun battle or lose a gun battle and continue on in the game, especially when you're playing close quarters. So make sure you guys keep looting and try to get all the best gear that you can. All right, and last but not least, I have my final tip for you guys, and this is to always keep moving. Something I always say on the stream is you play scared, you die scared, and these kind of go hand in hand, because a lot of times if you're playing scared, you might lay down behind a bush or stop behind a rock and wait there for a little bit, and anytime you stop moving in the game, you're giving someone else the chance to line up a headshot even at a really far distance, and if you get hit in the head, the odds are you're probably going to be dead and the game is going to be over, so you have no time to react. So no matter what you do, always keep moving, even even if you're looting over bodies, you can use your left thumbstick to keep moving left and right, and this makes you a much more difficult target to hit. Even if you're running through a field, it's a great idea to zigzag, and sometimes, you know, it is worth it to lay down if you've got a really great position behind a hill or behind a rock and there's a lot of bushes there. But for the most part, every time I lay down in this game, I get killed and I regret it. So stay on the move and have fun playing this game. I'm going to wrap it all up here together. It's kind of all of these things are part of the bigger picture of enjoying PUBG and playing better. So don't get frustrated with the game. Stay on the move. Play for at least a month or so you guys learn the controls and get better at the game. Play all the different maps and then come back to Sanhok. Once you learn the controls and are comfortable, start hot dropping, get into the game, go to boot camp, go to Paradise Resort, and really enjoy this game. So wherever you're playing on, PC, Xbox, or PlayStation, I hope you guys have a great time, and I hope to see you all in the future. Maybe we'll have crossplay in 2019, and we got a lot to look forward to next year with PUBG. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. Sorry, I know this video was very, very long, but I wanted to be, you know, really thorough on all this stuff and elaborate on all of my ideas and tips and tricks. These kind of videos take me a lot longer to create, so all of your support is greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all for watching. I'm Blitz5, and peace out.